Often laws, rules, regulations well intended to assist some people either directly or indirectly victimize others. Too often, implementation is faulty and without adequate consideration for others. This can include overregulation and an apparent lack of concern of how others could be impacted. Many relatively recent laws, regulations, practices, policies, etc. involve accommodating and bestowing additional rights and privileges to some specific pet owners. Some people say this is very noble, ethical, considerate, thoughtful, inclusive, and very helpful to those specific pet owners. But at the same time, it can be very inconsiderate, inconvenient, and costly for others. Often the majority of the people present are supportive of their pets and pet owners, but sometimes people opposed to this majority. A lot can be taken away from a majority for the convenience of a small percentage of people. When is it ethical to deprive and adversely affect some people to benefit others, especially when only a small percentage are benefactors? Is this a case of the end justifies the means? That as long as the objectives are well-meaning, it doesn't matter that the others have to suffer the consequences? Not to infer that a majority rules, but the minority shouldn't rule either. Just because it's helpful for some doesn't mean it's justifiable to burden others to accommodate them. Here are 3 examples. Many people love sharing their lives with dogs. Many have dogs sleeping next to them in bed, eating next to them, licking their faces, and treating dogs as though they were children. Many consider their lives fulfilled by the companionship, interactions, and feelings they share with dogs. For some, it can be therapeutic and bring joy and good meaning to their lives. Some are purported to be much happier and live a longer, healthier life after getting a dog. But some people have other perspectives, including feeling regarding allergic reactions. Certain close, intimate interactions with dogs are nasty, unsanitary, and even nauseating. Not wanting dogs anywhere near their food, especially when eating, how dogs smell, or the way the front or a rear of a dog's anatomy may appear. Dogs with fleas, dogs touching them with wet noses, licking them, sneezing towards them, passing gas near them, or even biting them. Concerns that some dogs may have a disease or infection that can adversely affect them or their children. Some people are sickened and wouldn't enjoy or continue to dine if a dog was in the same establishment. Even being stared at or barked at could be annoying. Dogs have been traditionally prohibited from being inside restaurants, food stores, etc. In part for some of the aforementioned concerns, generally having animals inside certain establishments has been considered to be unsanitary. Some people that have dogs at home would not want other people's dogs inside certain establishments. Some individuals, couples, groups have been compelled to leave after animals were taken into the premises. Some are no longer able to enjoy their stay, even discarding the rest of their meals or discontinuing their shopping. Yet restaurants, food markets, etc. are forced by law to allow certain animals inside. A relatively small percentage of people have animals that are classified as service animals. Neither the animals nor even patronizing certain establishments is generally necessary for the welfare or survival of these individuals. The benefits to them by having the right to take an animal into such establishments have at times been very costly for others. It can be cases of marginal conveniences for a very small percentage of the general population, resulting in significant costs, inconveniences, and unhealthy encounters for many. Accordingly, giving such rights to a few has taken away certain rights other people had. How important is it to allow some people to take their animals in places with open food, where others are eating and/or shopping? How are those opposed to the animals inside impacted? Whose rights are more important? Often people place their animals inside shopping carts, where other shoppers place their open food, and some their babies. Many, although unaware, would not want some of their animals' saliva, mucus, urine, or feces where they put their food items or children. Yet it occurs too often, and shoppers are unaware of how unclean some shopping carts are. Is it wrong to be opposed to allowing service animals inside such places? Is it wrong to be so inconsiderate of others by taking animals inside a place without regard to how others are affected? Even seeing eye dogs are still dogs. There can be obvious differences regarding necessity, and the dogs may be well trained, but there may be other options in assisting visually impaired people rather than negatively impacting others in some cases, especially considering situations where it is more a question of convenience than necessity. Service animals that are considered to be comfort animals can be less of a necessity. Is it that because some people feel better taking their animals inside, their preferences are more important than how others are negatively impacted? It should not be assumed that all normal people like or love dogs, and some people like dogs as well as many or most other animals, but don't want to be in close proximity with them. It's not a question of dealing with mean, selfish, inconsiderate people that are against others having their animals. It appears that most people prefer to enjoy eating or shopping in a pleasant, sanitary, and enjoyable setting, and animals do not have to be part of that scene. Out of consideration of others, some people don't even take their children into certain places, feeling that their children's behavior would be disrupted or annoying to others. They refrain from taking them inside. Yet for many people, having a dog passing next to them while they are eating is immensely worse than a child's behavior. The effects on others can be tremendous. Very significant loss of time, loss of money, inconvenience, loss of enjoyment, being sickened, turning a good situation negative. Having an airliner make an emergency landing at great cost and inconvenience, not to mention the suffering on board, due to service animals is not common. But this has happened, along with numerous other incidences where others have suffered because people are allowed to take their service animals where animals are normally prohibited. One reason, as with a recent expensive emergency landing, resulted from a dog defecating inside the location. This is a normal physiological function that can be very revolting. No surprise that this can and does occur. On what basis and justification were such laws enacted? Taking away rights from many to comfort a few? Do the benefits to those with service animals far outweigh the suffering of others? Is it ethical to inflict a lot of potential losses upon others for the sake of an added convenience for a few? This includes losses to business, small to large, and can have other effects, directly or indirectly. It is neither practical nor feasible to accommodate or help all individuals with certain needs or preferences. Extremely large numbers of people do not get assistance or special consideration in much worse situations. One example involves families losing their homes through foreclosures. This is obviously much more significant than people wanting to take their animals where animals are normally prohibited.
Second example. In many situations, having pets can be enormously beneficial for some people. In some cases, it can practically be the difference between life and death. The quality of one's life, self-esteem, degree of happiness, and health can, in some cases, be dramatically improved by having a pet. Because of this, a number of healthcare facilities, including hospitals, allow some patients to have their pets in their room. This has helped some patients feel better and recover faster. It is a great concept to allow this extra benefit without adversely affecting others. Unfortunately, such interactions do not always occur in areas separated from those opposed to having animals around. It is helping someone to recover while killing another. Again, too often, good policy for some can be detrimental to others, and there isn't always a fair compromise. It's often a question of whose rights are more important, or who deserves the most consideration. Again, and again, people think of the benefits for some people without considering how others might be affected, or not being concerned how they could be affected. Third example. Under favorable circumstances, camping in Yosemite National Park can really be awesome. Fun, educational, therapeutic, inspiring, and relaxing. Some of the people fortunate to experience camping in Yosemite are only able to do so once in their lifetime. However, dogs being permitted at the campgrounds has taken away from some of their enjoyment. This includes dogs barking throughout the night, dogs contaminating creeks by defecating, especially where creeks are the only source of drinking water, dogs annoying campers by approaching them, scaring children, dogs defecating about the campground, dogs approaching tables at campsites in search of food. There are some regulations regarding dogs being on a leash, people cleaning up after their dogs, but are often ignored, and rangers don't have the capacity to adequately enforce the regulations. Accordingly, there are a lot of violations, and a lot of people are adversely impacted, diminishing the enjoyment of their stay. For many years, dogs were allowed at 10 of the 12 available drive-in campgrounds. People not wanting dogs to impact their camping experience only had 2 choices out of the 12. In some ways, it's preferential accommodation for campers wanting to take their dogs. This at the expense of those desiring a pleasant stay without the interference of dogs. It may be that most of the time dogs were not negatively impacting the experience of other campers, but still very significant overall, especially for those visiting once in a lifetime when incidents occur. Recently, the superintendent of Yosemite National Park decided to allow dogs at all the campsites. His rationale was not at all logical, and his response appeared to be disingenuous. Further, he acknowledged that park rangers are unable to adequately enforce violations of the regulations. Then he suggested that a camper can report violations by calling the National Park Service. This from the campgrounds without any type of telephone service. Most campers would not bother to complain, and some would be leaving soon anyway. Not at all practical solution. This illustrates a lack of concern about the potential impacts to some campers. He has his agenda, as many other officials do. They are apparently under the impression it's best to accommodate some pet owners, as though their rights were more important than that of others.